Hello, and thank you for joining us for an episode of Ask a Historian. I'm Matthew Wilkinson, historian with Heritage Mississauga. Like, subscribe, and follow us and stay up to date on all the heritage happenings with Heritage Mississauga. On this week's episode of Ask a Historian, we are thrilled to be joined by Mikey Bloom, a local Mississauga musician who recently won the contest for the creation of a new Mississauga Anthem as part of Mississauga's 50th anniversary celebrations. Mikey will join us and we'll explore the story behind and the creation of the new Mississauga Anthem. Well, it's our pleasure to welcome on the program Mississauga recording artist, musician Mikey Bloom, and I guess the author, or I don't know what the right word is, the writer performer of the new Mississauga Anthem. Mikey, thank you for joining us.
No worries. I'm glad to be here.
Tell us about you. A lot of our listeners may be new to your music, maybe new to you. Tell us about you. How did you come to love Mississauga as your home?
So my name is Mikey Bloom. I make hip hop, rap, pop. I do a lot of different stuff, but born and raised in Mississauga. This is the city that made me who I am. Everything I've known, all the people that raised me since I was little, since I can remember. And music for me has always been something that brings people together. So growing up in the city, I did feel at times that I didn't feel like I had a voice. So I would listen to music from others and they would kind of tell stories that I could relate to. And then I got to an age where I felt like I wanted to speak for me and my friends and kind of give back to others and give them a voice. So yeah, I started making music or started writing music in my early teens. And yeah, I had a lot of pent up thoughts and feelings and didn't really know how else to share what I was going through or what I felt. And since music is like this universal language, I just started writing songs. And yeah, I got this opportunity through MAC and Sounds Unite and the contest. And I was like, this is second nature to me. I've always represented Mississauga just in my daily life, everywhere I go. And it was awesome to actually write a full record, just giving my praise and celebrating and appreciating the city, knowing it's the 50th anniversary, knowing, there's a high likelihood I don't even win the contest. It was really just me getting to fully sit down and use my gift of just coming up with something to write how I feel about the city. And it came quite easily, and I'm glad that now the song is out and everything's gone the way it's gone. But yeah, that's me.
One of the things that struck me about listening to your song the first time was, I don't know if you recall when the former U.S. President Barack Obama couldn't quite get the word Mississauga out of his mouth.
Yeah.
I'm thinking this song of yours would have been brilliant for him to have.
That was actually something, I know that specific clip that you're talking about. I remember when that happened. But yeah, I was thinking, because there's a lot of people from Mississauga that I know that say they're from Toronto.
Right.
And it's just way easier for people because they feel like no one knows Mississauga, or even if you say that, no one's going to know what to type in. No one's going to know how to spell that. No one's even going to know where that is. Yeah. So one thing that was really key for me, because when I originally submitted for the contest, my submission was only a verse, and it didn't have the chorus that people hear now and me spelling out Mississauga and saying it as many times. It was mostly me shouting out every neighborhood.
Right.
And that was my way of kind of showing, like, all my friends who live in all these different neighborhoods. I'm like, if I ever do get picked, everyone's gonna be happy. Everyone from Streetsville to Applewood to Cawthon, everyone's gonna be happy. But yeah, now that the song is out, that it's one big thing that if anyone asks where I'm from or where anyone from the city is from, they'll say Mississauga proudly. And if someone says, well, where is that, or what is that, or how do you spell that? Put the song on and they'll know every neighborhood. They'll know how to spell it and they'll start singing along. And yeah. It was something that I really thought about that.
I thought your song was brilliantly inclusive. It just connecting to all the different elements that are is the city we call home. What are your influences? I feel certain vibes coming through your music, but what inspired you for the sound that you create?
Um, so I would say the top three genres that my music touches are hip hop, pop, and R&B. So if I start with hip hop, I can't it obviously you Heritage Mississauga knows that nothing happens without the people who came before us.
Yes.
So without even if I don't listen to certain artists as much as someone else from the past, I have to give shout outs to all the early pioneers of hip hop. Um, Different groups that I still listen to a lot, like Wu Tang and Run DMC and Nas and Tupac and Big, and like a lot of hip hop, because for me, when I like I said, when I was in my teens and I wanted to share my experiences, I didn't want to sing about them. It wasn't something that naturally came to me. It was more like I wanted to lyrically storytell. And so for all the hip hop heads who know all the great MCs from the past, they've all inspired me all the way up to now with the newer school, Drake and uh yeah, there's just yeah, so there's tons of influence from those guys. Um just in their creativity and wordplay and metaphors that they use and all that kind of stuff. In terms of pop music, I'm a big Michael Jackson fan. It's his performance and his star power, his voice, everything that I like. I still think now to this day there hasn't been an artist as big as Michael Jackson. Um, Funny enough, he actually on my ninth birthday, June 25th, he passed away. So it was a really surreal time because I was only 9, so I didn't really understand why people cared so much that someone we didn't know personally passed away. And then that really got me to dive deeper in his music from the ages past that. And I was like, oh, he was the guy. Like his music was really the sound of the 70s, the 80s, since he was a little kid to when he passed. So him, and then the pop stars of today, like The Weeknd. He's also Ethiopian, The Weeknd, and he's from Toronto, Scarborough area.
Yeah.
And we have family that knows each other because I'm also Ethiopian. So he's a big inspiration and see that it's possible to make it from the GTA. And so yeah, The Weeknd is big. And then with R&B, same thing as hip hop. It's giving thanks to the early pioneers, and then all the way till now. I'm a big fan of Usher, Chris Brown. Yeah, there's great talent there. And for my music, I try to incorporate as much as I can um, without forcing anything. So if I have something on my mind and there's a certain tone to the emotion that I'm trying to convey, I'll produce something that fits that. So if it needs to be a rap track, it will be. If it needs to be something more punchy and boom bap, that's what's going to happen. If it needs to be something more pop, so everyone can enjoy it, and that's what you hear on this song for Mississauga. It's much more funky and danceable, and it's much more pop. And there is a rap verse because I couldn't have done it without the rap verse. And it's just those are my influences.
I just there's an old line of standing on the shoulders of giants, and
Exactly.
yeah, we can go miles when we lean on others, and it's think of I don't know if you think of it in these terms yet, but your music will be played a great deal this year through the Mississauga Anthem. You'll be
Mhm.
inspiring people to follow you too. So
Exactly.
this is a neat component, and I certainly hope we see the song played a great deal during this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even in general, with music, I feel like it's because of those people that were free in their expression and creating that it inspired me. And then now it's my job. Like that's something I really take seriously because, like I said, being young and going through things and feeling like music was my comfort, music was the thing that um, I gravitated towards, and I felt these people that I was listening to and things like that, they were speaking to what I was feeling, whether it's like you're going through a breakup and you're hearing that music, or you're having a great time and you're hearing whatever's being played, and those things become your soundtrack. I want to be the soundtrack for somebody somewhere. And even if it's just like right now, I'm not a major deal. Now that I have this anthem and I have more music coming out and people are getting to notice me, I feel like, yeah, if even just one person, one new person resonates with something I've written and something I've put out there, then I've paid it forward, and that's the goal.
Well, I have to admit, for the last hour and a bit, as I've been preparing for doing this interview and others, I've been playing your music in the background. So
Nice.
I'm new to your music as well, but enjoying the vibe of it as well. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
The how did you get the contest itself?
Yeah.
Can you describe that process of just hearing about the contest? And I know it was put on by the Mississauga Arts Council, but
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so this is a funny story. So when I followed the Mississauga Arts Council on Instagram, and the reason I did so is because I have people that I know who do visual arts. And from what I was seeing from the Arts Council, they were giving a lot of opportunities for grants, and they were doing things like in the neighborhoods and different opportunities for visual artists, people who draw, paint, stuff like that. I hadn't seen anything about music. So, and sometimes the two are separate. When someone says arts, it doesn't necessarily mean they're talking about music. It's maybe they're talking about digital art, visual art.
Right.
So I just followed so that I could pass on any opportunities that I see to any visual artists that I know. And on the last day of the extension, so they actually were running this contest for the 50th anniversary. I didn't know. I hadn't really been checking the Instagram actively and things like that. So I found it on the last day of an extension where they had pushed the deadline to like give people an extra week or so.
Okay.
So I was like, do I even have enough time to come up with something and record something? And honestly, I didn't. So I had to freestyle it on my phone and send in a very sort of not a polished mix or anything like that. It was just a spur of the moment. I got my notepad. I wrote all the neighborhoods from Applewood to Cred and Butte and I just did that part, and the chorus, Mississauga, from that part. And I was just like, yeah, this is for fun. This is for the vibes. Right. And then slowly I started, because this was on Sounds Unite, so the way you uploaded it was through their website. And I slowly started getting likes from different names that I don't recognize at the time. I'm just like, maybe these are other artists on the site liking my stuff, being nice. And then I get an email saying, you have been selected as a finalist. And I'm like, well, first of all, I don't know how many people are getting selected as a finalist. So I'm like, is this like me versus one other person? Is this just kind of just to be nice, maybe everybody gets the same email, but just to be nice. So I don't get my hopes up. I keep it, I don't even tell anybody that I submitted. I was just like, just keeping it pushing, doing my, working on my own projects. And then I get an email saying, you've won. Don't tell anybody. Keep it under wraps. You're going to be allowed to go to MetaWorks and work on it and stuff like that. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't even have a full song. I'm like, I repeated the chorus like 4 or 5 times, and I had one rap verse. So that's when I start really thinking, what else is this missing? And I don't know if you remember, but there's a verse where I'm talking about the diversity in the city and all of us working together. And Mississauga together, there's no city that's better. Those kind of lyrics that came afterwards, when I was like in the studio writing the rest of the stuff. But yeah, last minute sort of felt like fate once everything started rolling, because if I had not seen that post on the last day, then we would have a different anthem right now. So it's Yeah, everything
And
happens for a reason.
over time, I've heard lots of stories of, great songs that are scribbled on the back of a piece of paper of a half an idea kind of thing. And
Yep.
certainly that speaks to that, where it's like you won, but you don't actually have a full song yet. So
Yeah, it's like even in the studio when I was talking to the engineer, we were talking about how I think that it was the sound of like the 70s, 80s where it was this certain drum, and
okay.
it was a mistake that that drum sounded the way it did because there was a talkback mic in the studio, and when they were recording the drums, the other mic that was only supposed to pick up when you like press it to talk to the person in the other room, it was also recording. So when the tapes like were printed, the drums sounded completely different. It was like that Phil Collins type of those drums.
I was gonna say it's more ethereal in a way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And obviously if you hear any like that song where it's like do 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 do, I can feel it come. That song, those drums, the drums is not supposed to sound like that. They're supposed to just be regular drums. But because of that mistake, it basically created that whole sound for that whole era of pop, and it's
Right.
just a small kind of like you could call it an accident, like a good accident, and I don't know. I just saw it on the last day, and everything worked out great.
That's phenomenal. I love that story. Um, you referenced the recording and the process. I mean, that must have been a neat experience.
It
I've
was.
I've walked in the door of Metalworks once, and I'm not a recording artist, so I can't imagine
Mhm.
for me to work there. And talk a little bit about that process, working with Metalworks and creating the polished version of the song.
Yeah. So actually, I don't remember when it was, but I had been in Metalworks as well. It was maybe like a year. I think right before COVID. They had an open house because they have the institute for the school, and obviously I had been working on music and doing my thing, and I was considering maybe going to school for music. And actually I just wanted to see the studio because I did know a bit about the history of who's
Yeah.
gone in that studio and all the great artists that I've recorded there. So I went to the open house, and in my head I remember I was like, one day I'm going to record here. And then I got a quote like a year later or something about how much it cost to record in that studio. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm not going to record here yet. Um, because yeah, it's like the one of the most prestigious studios in the entire world. And especially in Canada, I think it's the largest, and it has the most history. And all the plaques on the wall, all the great artists that have gone there, it just motivated me. It put a fire in me towards doing the best I could perform, because I'm hearing, oh yeah, Prince recorded in the same booth as you, like Drake recorded in the same booth as you, and I'm just like, all right, I gotta show out. I gotta really push this as far as I can when it comes to these melodies, and when it comes to my performance. I gotta really put everything into this because there's like you said before, you're standing on the shoulders of these people, and now you're kind of brushing shoulders. It felt really surreal. And yeah, hearing more about it from the engineer and from Gilmore, and just being around those individuals, it was something surreal. And then yeah, recording was it was definitely a process because like I said, I didn't have a full song. And in terms of production, I had a lot of ideas because I'm not the greatest producer myself, but I'm great at having the idea and giving it to someone else. And we were on a time crunch, so we were recording this all during the Christmas break, and um, availability and everything was just it was looking at times that we weren't going to get it done on time the way, again, I want to feel confident. If this is going to be an anthem that I perform that people hear, I need it to be as best as like to the best of its capability. I can't leave any stone unturned. Like, let me hear that turn down a little bit. Let me hear that snare up a little bit. Let me hear this. And the engineer's looking at me like, we don't got time. Like, we got to finish this song. And I'm like, nah, we have to make this historic because it is. And yeah, I just worked really hard in the studio. I brought my dad there. I brought my friend there. I brought like I just needed everyone that I could tell at the time because they weren't going to tell anybody about it. I just wanted them to see. Yeah, and it's amazing. It's amazing. The studio is great and still doesn't even feel real, but because I'm used to recording in my house.
Right.
I have a microphone. I've taught myself how to make songs and do everything myself, DIY style, and that's been my thing. And I've been in a couple studios as well, but it's basically like the Canadian Abbey Road. It's like it's so much history, and
Yeah.
what better place to record it?
It really is a hidden gem in Mississauga. I know in the music industry it's well known, but I think in
People don't know
the
about it.
wider
Yeah,
city, it's this thing is here.
yeah, yeah. And it's
Here.
been here for so long. I didn't know how long it had been
Oh
here.
yes, yeah.
I
He
was
said
like,
if these
wow.
walls could talk, right? That's um I from someone on the outside, I have not a clue on the answer to a question like this, but how long does it take to, hours wise to record a song?
Hmm. I would say that it depends. The artist, the song, the connection between you and the engineer. So if you guys have worked for years together, and nowadays a lot of things are digital.
Yeah.
So if you have I would say like a designated sound, you already know exactly how you're meant to sound. You can kind of preload all your the things on your voice, like your compressor or your reverb from other songs. You can just kind of preload them in. So if you have those things and you have the song already written and the beat already made, then it could be pretty quick. It does take mixing and mastering. So again, that's out of the artist's hands if they're not the one mixing. If someone takes a little longer with a mix or a little longer with a master, yeah, that's out of my control. But for this specific anthem, I would say about, for me in the studio, about 5 to 6 sessions that were roughly maybe 2 to 4 hours each. So first session, and this was also because of the reproduction. Like I if you heard the demo and you heard the actual, like what I submitted and what the song sounds like now, they don't even sound like the same song. Like we added bass, we added like more instruments, we basically reconstructed it. So that took time, and recording took time because uh I'm a perfectionist, and I know there's no such thing as perfect, but I'm very self-conscious at times with every single detail. So there were times where I recorded it and then came back another session and delete all those vocals and re-recorded it. So if everything goes smooth, you can make a song in a few hours, but when you really put a lot of thought into things and you really want it to sound the best for the city, I yeah, we took a fair amount of time to make it, and paid off.
Well, I think just from somebody who listens to music, and I'm sure there's a lot of us out there that are fall into that realm. We don't know the creation process, right? You hear the end result, but not the thought and time that goes into it. And so
Yeah.
I'm always amazed to kind of peel back the covers and hear the story about creation. What you're talking about, the shoulders of the giants a little bit. Mississauga had a song created in 1974 by Tommy Hunter, who was at that point living in the Lorne Park area of Mississauga.
Mhm.
Did that inspire you at all? Did you take some time to listen to that? Just curious. I had a chance to interview Tommy Hunter years ago. So
Yeah. So when I was writing on the day I was going to submit my song, I searched up if there was a song, and it's actually like hard to find
yeah, it is.
because it's before the internet and before maybe articles and stuff like that would really talk about it on online. So it hadn't been really covered as much, and I found it on somebody's YouTube channel. It wasn't like like an official release on platforms and stuff like that. So I listened to it, and when he was talking about like the Credit River, and I'm like right by the Credit River. I live like really close to it. And as you know, it's like it's the greatest place we know.
Yeah.
That kind of inspired me to the verse I was saying where, Mississauga, there's no city that's better. Mississauga together, there's no city that's better. It was sort of giving homage to that line where he was talking about, this is the greatest place we know, this is the best place we know. and the place we call home. Um, Also, once I heard it and the ball started to roll in terms of me getting selected, I made sure at our press conference to pay homage to Tommy Hunter with a little cool design that I made, which was like Tommy Hilfiger. It was
Okay.
it was like the logo on my shirt, and instead of Tommy Hilfiger, it said Tommy Hunter.
I didn't
And
catch
then
that. Awesome. I didn't see that.
yeah, so and I put a picture of Hazel McCallion on the shirt as well, because growing up, she was everything to the city, and her fingerprints are everywhere in the city
Yep.
still till now. So um yeah, I made sure to pay homage, and it definitely did inspire me. I did feel that communal pride and in his work, and I just said, let me try to have that same feeling and just add something new as well, something new
Yep.
and fresh. And yeah, I feel like everybody should check out both, and there's nothing wrong with either. There's both are just
Yep.
moments of the city, and I don't think that should be forgotten. I think it's yeah, it's important.
I think you're great bookends for a 50-year anniversary. Where you got a voice from yesteryear, 50 years ago, talking about this new place that had been created, and 50 years later, here you are, a resident of the
Mhm.
city, saying, "Look at all the I guess the elements that make up this city, and it's a fantastic place to live." And so, you got maybe Tommy is the infancy, and you're looking at it as a 50-year-old city that's saying, "Look what
Yeah,
we've done."
yeah. And it's interesting too, because um I do feel like the city has changed since then. Um and yeah, what I feel like there's no better way to celebrate change than something fresh, because things change, right?
Yep.
The music changes, faces change. The city is much more diverse, and there's so much more going on. There's everything has been like so many things have been changed since back then. So uh yeah, I definitely pay him a lot of respect, and his song. And now, for to kind of touch on, like, now, if this song, in 50 years, it and I'm like old, and like it's just like it's kind of like it kind of trips me out to think about it. But right now I'm just living in the moment. I'm so glad to have gotten this opportunity, and yeah, all respects to him. I think this is like we're both still anthem creators at the end of the day for the
Well,
city. That's
I
all it is.
I I want to say I think you've made Mississauga proud with this,
Thank you.
and it's you've going to turn some
Oh,
heads and make some fans, I hope, and I've
I
certainly you've
hope.
got one in me, and I do encourage people to check out your music. How can people follow you, connect with your music? What's the best way to do that?
Uh, Search up Mikey Bloom. I know the internet is a large place, but I've made a name for myself before the anthem.
Yeah.
So Google knows who I am, and once you search me up on any platform, Spotify, Apple Music, Instagram, uh, anywhere you can listen to music, YouTube, you search Mikey Bloom, or go to MikeyBloom.com, and I'm there. So all my handles are at Mikey Bloom. All my music is under that name, and this is really the beginning of something. So if you want to be on that ride to see, uh, um, I wouldn't want to say an unknown artist, because I do have a lot of supporters.
Emerging. How's that?
Emerging, yeah, perfect word. If you want to be on the journey with an emerging artist, to be able to say you were at their early shows, you listened to their early work, you had conversations with me, because I do respond. I'm not Hollywood. I can really respond to my messages and my emails and things like that. And it's all me. It's me working on this stuff with no team. It's just me. So
And I can verify that you did respond.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, if someone resonates with the desire to express and create something out of nothing, that's my story. And Yeah, Mikey Bloom on everything.
Well, and just to call it, and we will link to your sites and your contacts and to the Mississauga Anthem below here. But at the same time, let's support one of our own. You're a Mississauga boy here, Mississauga musician, and let's get behind one of our own and say, you know
That's
what,
what
this is where he comes from, representing Mississauga proudly and giving. And I thank you for this, giving Mississauga a voice.
thank you.
I always say I write a lot of articles with the idea of if the city could talk, what would it say?
Hmm. Hmm.
And maybe perhaps on your side, if the city could sing, you've given it a song to sing. So I think
Hmm.
that's a really neat way to look at it. And continued success. We'll certainly see you out there and hear you out there this year, but hopefully beyond as well.
Yeah,
And may only better and bigger things be ahead for you.
thank
And
you.
I certainly wish you well. And again, everyone following this program, check out Mikey Bloom, and let's follow and make this song and bring this song up to a platform that we are singing it and listening to it over the year ahead. So
Make sure I thank a lot of people first, because none of this, even though I am giving a lot of thanks to the artists who has inspired my music,
yep,
without my family first choosing Mississauga. My family came from Ethiopia, wanting a better life for their future children and for themselves, and chose the best place possible. So I got to thank my mom and my dad. I got to thank my sister as well. She's 14. We're 14 years apart, so she raised me as
wow,
well. Yeah. So and she influenced me a lot with music, hearing different things that she was playing during that early 2000s era. So shout out to her. She has a son as well, my nephew. So one day he's gonna grow up and know that his uncle did this cool thing. So
yep,
shout out to them. All my friends growing up, all my teachers, role models in the community. Their work doesn't go unnoticed by me or unappreciated, because you aren't who you are without those people, those teachers, those role models, those coaches that that made me who I am. So shout out to them. Stephen Dasco, he was the one who had the idea, the whole vision, the vision for a 50th anthem, and giving a platform for artists to submit their music and do something, and give a chance for a local artist to do something historic. Tommy Hunter, he was already pretty big at the time. He was a star. He had his shows and he had a lot going
yep.
on, so it made sense. But to give a relatively unknown or emerging, as we said before, or any artist a chance, I got to salute to Dasco for that. Gilmore, he runs Metalworks. He was in Triumph, Rockstar, performed in front of thousands, still has millions of people listening to his music who have been touched. But more or less, he's keeping Mississauga and music intertwined with his work as the CEO of that studio, the school, and everything he's doing. He was a part of this, so thank you to him. Engineer I worked with, Camille and Chris, the mastering engineer. Thank you guys. Who else? And Mac, which you guys work with at Heritage Mississauga. They are such a strong team that not enough people know about, and I don't feel like even with, I say, not enough support, they still manage to impact so many people, so many artists, giving opportunities and grants and coming up with new things, and contests like this that change people's lives. So yeah, everyone at Mac, Mike, Sherry, those are the two that really helped me. So yeah, and Sounds Unite as well. So everybody, I got to just make sure, I don't know if it makes the edit, but I really got to make sure everyone knows I'm so appreciative. And this city is like, I feel like Mississauga is a group project that we're all working on, and we're all contributing something. And sometimes you feel underappreciated or like you're going unnoticed, but genuinely, I want to say everybody from here to there, from every neighborhood I mentioned in the song, you guys are what make this city what it is. Without us, the city is not, it's not alive. And yeah, so shout out to everybody.
Thank you. It takes a village, and I couldn't said it any better. And thank you to you, Mikey. Thank you for joining us here, and we look forward to further exploring your music. So, congratulations.
Thank you. I can't wait to see this.
Thank you for spending some time with us here at Ask a Historian. And thank you also to Mississauga's own Mikey Bloom for spending some time with us here and exploring the story behind and the creation of the new Mississauga Anthem as part of the City of Mississauga's 50th anniversary celebrations. Like, subscribe, and follow us and stay up to date on all the heritage happenings with Heritage Mississauga. And we'll see you again on future episodes of Ask a Historian.